Well, there you have it, folks. After this week's episode, we are down to the final 7, and we're going to talk about, just like usual, everything that happened. It's time to wrap up reality. I'm your host, Tom Vasey. Welcome to TV Talks with Tom. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 6th episode of my podcast now. It's the 10th episode of Survivor Edge of Extinction, but it's the 6th episode of my podcast because I started about halfway through not halfway through, 5 episodes into the series, which means I've been doing this over a month now, and I'd just like to thank everyone who's been here for a month and been supporting me along the way and giving me these views and the likes, because I think it's amazing and I couldn't do it without you, and I really appreciate it. Also, folks, it was Easter this week, so if you celebrate Easter, I hope you had a great Easter, but let's stop talking about that and we'll get right on to Survivor Edge of Extinction episode 10. Just like usual, the episode starts back at Varta after the tribal council, and it's just the lowdown and the fallout from Kelly Wentworth being sent out last week. Is that sent out the correct term in Survivor? I mean, I know a Big Brother is evicted. I guess it's just eliminated. We'll say eliminated. Okay, so Kelly Wentworth was eliminated last week, and Lauren was sad to see her go. She was blindsided just as much as Kelly, because War Dog was in on the plan to take... Well, he pioneered the plan to take out Kelly, so Lauren was left out the loop. Because if Lauren was to find out, she probably would have blew that cover, and Wentworth would have found out. So, as I said last week, well done to War Dog for getting Kelly Wentworth out, because she is an immense player. I've got a huge amount of respect for her, and my respect has gone up for War Dog for the fact that he's took that big move and he took Kelly Wentworth out. So it was the final 8 after Kelly Wentworth was sent out. But I said obviously earlier in the video, it's the final 7 now. After we'll talk about the elimination later, but for now it's the final 8. We had Ron and War Dog. They were exposed for flipping. Everyone had a bit of a conversation. There wasn't much beating around the bush. Everyone just sort of put their cards on the table and said who they voted out, and Ron and War Dog were found out to be the ones who didn't vote Aurora out, and they're the ones who took Kelly out instead. So Lauren doesn't know where people stand after this. As I said, obviously she was with the Lesu 3 the whole way through. She's been with Kelly Wentworth and War Dog. One of them has been voted out and one of them's turned on her, so Lauren is stuck between a rock and a hard place now. She's got nowhere to go, so she needs to start making other allies extremely fast. We had Gavin and War Dog had a couple of crosswords. They were having a go at each other quite a bit. There was a loss of trust on Gavin's part, because we did see that they had the 6 alliance that they were in together, and Gavin wasn't brought in the loop, and he was pretty annoyed. War Dog was talking down to him. Gavin did not like that, and he did state that he does want revenge. He really wants revenge, because he didn't like the way that War Dog treated him, and he didn't like the fact that he wasn't in the loop. We also next saw Gavin was, because he felt he was out the loop, he went to side with Victoria and Ron, and he straight up said to them, he went, okay, I'm an easy vote here. Whoever you guys want to vote, you just let me know and I'll vote with you. That is building trust. I think he just wants people to be an easy, because if someone knows that they're willing to vote with them, that's just a vote they've got. They don't need to work for it. They don't need to do anything. And taking them out is probably going to be a bad move, because that's an extra, that's one less vote that they're going to get. So Gavin is probably doing the best thing that he can at this moment in time. Also, I forgot to state as well, whilst Gavin and War Dog were having a bit of conflict, Devons was sort of just stood on the side smiling as the conflict continued. I thought that was brilliant again, because, War Dog is a big target in the game alongside Devons, because they're both arch enemies in the game, and the fact that War Dog's getting a bigger target on his back whilst Devons isn't, Devons is obviously happy about that, because he's smiling away as they start arguing. Another issue that arose last week was the fact that if Ron was to flip and he was to devote out Wentworth, Julie would be pretty annoyed with him, because Julie was set on getting Aurora out. So we did see Ron apologising to Julie. He said that he also told her about the fact that Aurora had gave him the extra vote as well. But surprisingly, I did think Julie would be slightly annoyed, and I did think she'd have a go at Ron, but she was so cool with it. I don't know if that was game, so she wouldn't trash her own game, but I think she probably was annoyed, but she just didn't want to express that and ruin her social game. So I think she just went with it, and she was like, yeah, I'm cool with it, it's all fine, don't worry. And they did say that they're both good with each other, and they definitely want to work together. But Julie did actually say in a confessional that she did respect his game decision, and she can understand why he did it. So we'll keep talking about Varta, but it's day 28 now, it's on the morning. So breakfast is cooking and everyone's just around the fire, just talking about Kelly's departure, how they're feeling about it, and where everyone just stands, generally, just in the group. And, there wasn't a lot of game talk then, it was just reflecting really. But then, obviously, it's Survivor. We did move on to some game talk, and we saw Devons, War Dog, and Ron. They sort of removed themselves from the group, and they went off to the Rocks to talk a bit of game. So the concept that Devons came up with was the fact that they all do need to stick together, as they are, they're the three biggest players that are left in the game. They're the ones who've made the biggest moves, and if one of them goes, then the target's going to increase on the other two, and then if the next one goes, the last target's going to be on the last one of them, which means that they're all just going to get picked off one by one, and neither of them are going to make it to the end. So they thought the best thing to do was to stick together. Great gameplay, I think, on Devon's part, and they all agreed on it. They all struck a deal to work together, and Aurora's name was brought up by them straight away. I've got to say, immense gameplay, and I do agree. I think that War Dog, Devons, and Ron have been the three biggest players that are left in the game. I mean, I'm going to give a fair shout to Julie as well. I think Julie's chosen her sides correctly, and I also think Lauren's been, as I've said continually throughout my series, I think she's been a competition beast. I think I've got big respect for that, and I'm not going to downplay that at all. I think she's been brilliant there. There's a couple that I'm thinking, that maybe they don't deserve the space right now. I wouldn't say not deserve, but they haven't played as good as others. Victoria's gone under the radar, but she hasn't made any game moves, really. She's voted with majority, I think, every single time, pretty much, which is, I've sort of got a bit of respect for that, but it does seem like she's a tiny bit of a goat. I'm not 100% sure, though. That could be her tactic. Aurora, she's fought for her place in the game. She really has. She's fought because she's had a target on her back week after week after week, and she just keeps pulling through when she needs to, so fair play to her for doing that. Well done to Aurora. Gavin, let's talk about Gavin. Gavin has made some big moves in the game, but he's gone from making some big moves to being on outside of the loop, and he's not been in on the big decisions. So I think it's a massive shift for Gavin as well. So where he stands in the game, he might have to up his game within the next week or two, or whenever, because Gavin he's got potential to be a really good player, but whether he's going to exercise that or not, he needs to decide right now. So that was the first bit of game that we've got this episode, but now we're going to move on to the reward challenge. So let's just jump right straight into it, and I'll explain the rules and the concept of the rewards challenge this week. Okay, so what they had to do was they had to swim out to a platform, and they then had to run across. The platform and then jump in the water again. Then they had to pull themselves under this platform that was on a horizontal rope that went underneath the platforms underwater. So they had to pull into that. Then retrieve a ring at the back end of the. This is really confusing, isn't it? And then they had to pick up a ring at the back end of the platform, which they've just pulled themselves across. This is so there's no point in me explaining. If you don't understand, just YouTube it. You'll probably find it somewhere. But I'll still try and explain it anyway. So they're pulling themselves along this rope. They have to get back onto the platform, take some rings off, jump back into the water, and once you've got all three, you have to throw them onto a ring toss, and the first team to do so will win the reward. So I will say as well before we start, we've got it's 2 teams, so 2 teams of 4, and then Jeff did reveal what the reward is, so I'll explain that quickly as well. So the first team to finish will be taken to a mud pool, which is like a mud bath, to enjoy sandwiches, chicken, pork, beef, juice, salad, and brownies, and also a bit of alcohol as well. So they all really, really, really wanted to play for this one. Now, at first, I thought there was going to be, 4 teams of 2, but then it turns out it was actually going to be 2 teams of 4. So I'll go through the teams. On the blue team, we had on the starting positions, we had War Dog and Lauren, and then at the end there was Devons and Julie, and they were versing the yellow team, which was Ron and Aurora at the start, and then Gavin and Victoria at the end of the course. So let's jump straight into the challenge and see what happens. Okay, so War Dog, he slips when he jumps in. He's about to dive, and he makes a slip, so that automatically puts the blue team at a halt, sends them back a bit, so they are not in the lead just to start off with. So Ron does take the lead when he dives in. So then War Dog, he manages to get in front. He catches up, so he's obviously the strongest swimmer between the two of them. He gets both of his rings at the same, but no, both of them get their rings at the same time though. So they've both gone under this rope, grab their rings. So it's neck and neck at the moment. Absolutely anyone's game. Ron does get out the water first when he's taking his rings over to Gavin and Victoria, which means that Aurora gets to jump in the water and she gets to set off as well as the second member of the L team. Once again, Aurora's inner competition beast comes out, and she is absolutely ploughing through that water. She is going so fast. She's a brilliant competitor when it comes to a physical challenge, so hats off to her there. Very, very well done. So she's swimming really, really fast, but then eventually War Dog gets out the water, and Lauren then sets off as well, and then this is like comp beast versus comp beast. As I've said throughout the season, these two are the women that have proven themselves to be the best people at competitions throughout the entirety of the season, and I think that's going to continue until both of them voted out or one of them wins or whatever the outcome is going to be. They are both legends at physical competitions, so they are swimming really, really fast. Aurora is slightly in front of Lauren, but she's untying the rings. Aurora gets to the rings, and while she's untying the rings, Lauren is still underwater on the rope, so she's taking a bit of time because there was this thing on the rope where you go through. In the centre of the rope, you could sort of come up for a bit of air. And Aurora, she ignored the air. She did not need that air. I don't know why, but she did not need that air. She went literally. She flew down that rope, and she didn't come up for air. Lauren did come up for air, however. I mean, how on earth she didn't come up for air? I've got to take my hat off to that and give her a round of applause, because that was brilliant. So well done to Aurora there, and Lauren's keeping up still, so she's doing all right as well. So Aurora does get her next the final two rings to the platform. So she takes the rings off, swims over, and then takes the rings over to Gavin and Victoria as well, which means that they can start throwing the rings onto the ring toss. Lauren finally manages to untie her rings, and then, but by this point, the yellow team has already started tossing the rings. So then Lauren's trying to catch up as well. So then she finally gets to the platform as well, and then the blue team also start ring tossing as well. So first we have Gavin. He lands the first yellow ring for the yellow team, obviously, and then we have Devons. He comes in, tries to catch up. He lands the first and second blue ring at the same time. Well, not exactly at the same time, but I think it was simultaneously, like right next to each other. So well done to Devons for that. Well done to Gavin for that. Gavin keeps missing again. He throws the second one for his team, and he keeps missing. He can't seem to get it. And then Devons eventually lands the third ring. Devons again proving himself that he is really, really good at competitions, which means that the blue team wins. Well done to Wardog, Lauren, Devons and Julie for winning that challenge. They've done extremely well. I would say they've got a very good team there. I would say the teams were balanced physically, but when it came to game-wise, I wouldn't say the teams were balanced. But game wasn't incorporated in this. It was all physical. So well done to the blue team for winning that. So the boat arrives, and Wardog, Julie, Devons and Lauren, they board it and they sail off. And on the way that the yellow team go back to camp, Gavin's confessional says he wants to build relationships with Ron, Aurora and Victoria just so he can get revenge on Wardog, because obviously what happened last week was Gavin was left out the loop and he doesn't like what the Wardog's done to him. He wants to end the Wardog, so he wants revenge on that, and he's thinking, right, okay, whilst all of them are over at the mud pool, this is the perfect time that I can build a relationship with Ron, Aurora and Victoria. Perfect tactic? I think so, because whilst they're not around, I think it's the best time to work on your relationships with people. Over to the Edge of Extinction right now, and we all love some Edge of Extinction, don't we? So let's dive right into that. Okay, so, and I keep saying okay, so I apologise if that frustrates anyone, me saying okay, so. It's just one of those things, everyone's got one of those things, don't they, where when you're in conversation or you're commentating something, I don't know if you'll be commentating something or not, but I am obviously here, I just slip into it sometimes. Everyone's got their little sort of catchphrase that they say, and I wouldn't even class this as a catchphrase. It's just one of those things that slips out. So I do say okay so quite a lot, but please excuse me for it, and if you don't like it, I will really, really try to stop, but I can't help it. I really do try, folks, but it just sort of slips out sometimes, so I'm going to continue saying it, and I'm going to say it once more here. Okay, so Kelly and Joe were discussing the Edge of Extinction and how hard it is. This is the usual. We're seeing this every single week, people reflecting on the gameplay and going, I'm really, really, really struggling here. And you can see why. The conditions look harsh, everything. It takes a strain on your mental health. It takes a strain on your physical well-being. It's just overall a very, very tricky place to be just by looking at it visually. And I don't know how else you'd look at it, but visually, I assume that's the only way to look at it. So visually was probably the wrong word to use there. Right, so, I tried right so this time instead of okay. So we're talking next about Kelly. She was annoyed for not using her idol. She was voted out last week. She was blindsided. She did not know that she should have used her idol. So that's a big regret in her book. I mean, if I was on there and I'd gone to the Edge of Extinction Island after being blindsided and I had an idol in my pocket, I would feel pretty disappointed in myself, because I would have had my own capability to keep myself in the game. But you fall into this trap, don't you, where you start trusting people. And when you trust people, it's like you've got a web of sort of like a network of trust, and when that network isn't exposing itself, when it's not there's no hiccups within the network, you trust them even more. So which is why the plan by Wardog that he did, it was executed brilliantly. He didn't include everyone in the plan. He only included the absolute minimum so we could keep this circle as tight as possible. So I'm going to say it again, well done to War Dog for that. We had Aubrey, Joe and Kelly. They were consoling with one another. They had a group hug, and they are three of the veterans on this Edge of Extinction at the moment who've played the game before. David is the other veteran on the Edge of Extinction at the moment, but he wasn't involved in that. It was just Aubrey, Joe and Kelly. We'll move on to Reem next. Reem was... she was very, very happy that Kelly was voted out. She said this in a confessional. And this is Reem, dude, and she always says dude, and she's duding this and she's duding that, and she doesn't hold back. She literally puts her cards on the table, and she's like, she's telling Wentworth that, dude, you cut my Survivor experience short, and that was my really bad impression of Reem, but dude, you get me. She was saying all that. She was saying, Kelly, you ruined my Survivor experience, and she didn't hold back at all. And she said that she wasn't very, a Survivor experience wasn't very good because of her. But I didn't expect this. I thought Kelly would blow up, but no, she apologised to her. She said, I'm sorry, Reem, I am. Because she's at an all-time low now, Kelly. When you're on Edge of Extinction, it absolutely batters your well-being. So, I think the last thing Kelly wanted right now was arguments. I don't know how Reem's got the energy to argue, to be honest. She's been there the longest out of everyone. I like Reem, though. I really do. If Reem gets an opportunity to get back in the game, I think they all are going to get this opportunity to get back in the game. But if Reem's the one who actually wins and she gets back in the game, oh my God, that would be the plot twist of the season. So we'll see what happens in the future episodes. What could potentially happen. So we also had Reem. She was expressing that people do need to get their opinions off their chest, and because everyone on the Extinction Island is annoyed with somebody. Think about it. You've been in this game and you've been sent home by someone. You're either annoyed with someone in the game or you're annoyed with someone that's came to Edge of Extinction Island. You can't get away from anyone. It's just tense and it's awkward sometimes. So it's the best thing to do. Get your cards out on the table, and I think Reem was correct there by saying that. Kelly, again, reflecting on her gameplay, she was just hoping to make peace with herself after the game. She wanted to look back and go, yes, I did have a good time on Survivor Edge of Extinction, and I'm not going to let the fact that I didn't use my idol ruin it for me. So I think she's going to have to reflect a lot. And you never know, Kelly could get back in the game as well, and then that'll redeem her, hopefully. So, there's a lot of aspects to look at, but honestly, I think that's her main goal. She just wants to make peace with herself after the game. Do I think she'll do that? Yes, I do. I think after a certain amount of time, it's a healing process. I think after a certain amount of time, you do feel better about certain things. Back to Vata now, and we're just talking about the fallout of the loss of the challenge for Yellow. So it's the return to camp for the losers, and the discussion of Devons being a very dangerous player is brought up by pretty much all of them. They wonder, Devons, throughout the weeks, his gameplay has been improving so much, and that is becoming more and more predominant in the views and opinions of people, and they need to know, hang on, maybe we should get Devons out whilst we can. I mean, for goodness sake, he's been voted out. He's returned to the game by winning the competition. He's proven himself that he's been able to manipulate votes. He's been able to control votes. Remember that crazy tribal council where he went from being a passenger to a pilot? Yep, that's the Rick Devons we all know and love, because he is absolutely adapting to this game the best he can, and he's doing a great job in my opinion. So yes, he is a dangerous player to have around. Gavin says that he's happy to vote with people. He said this earlier and he's saying it again. He wants to be an easy vote. But then again, what I didn't understand was the fact that he said earlier, he said that he wanted War Dog out. He said he wanted to be the one to get revenge on him. He wanted to strike now. So I thought that was a bit of a contradiction, really. I didn't like that. It's not precise gameplay. It's not anything of a sort of standout move, because he's gone from saying he wants to get War Dog out to just like literally seconds later telling people, yeah, I'm happy to vote with you. I'm an easy vote. I don't like that. I just think it's not very... It's hard to find a word for it. I just don't respect that. I think you need to make your mind up. I mean, in this situation, he probably should have laid on the law, not gun for War Dog straight away. Maybe you should have just said, yeah, I'm easy vote for now, and then he can strike later when he's got a bit of a sort of people are rallying behind him. We then move on to Ron. He gave his extra vote back to Aurora since she stayed in the game. Ron could have kept that, but he's played an honest game there. He's gave it back to Aurora. And Rice Gate begins. I mean, it wouldn't be a Survivor season, would it, without a bit of hassle about Rice. Ron wants more rice. He wants to use up loads more, and then everyone else was having a go at him, saying, no, we're using less because we're going to run out if we do that. I mean, remember Angelina last season where she was bargaining for rice at one of the, I think it was a reward challenge or a immunity challenge. I mean, that was hilarious. That great TV, but it was hilarious. But I mean, it's not a Survivor season, is it? Without someone going on about rice. So There we go. There's Survivor Rice Gate of Edge of Extinction. I mean, we might even see more because it's not even the end of the series. We're not exactly near the end of the series yet. There's several more episodes to go, so it wouldn't surprise me if Rice Gate continues. Luxury time, folks, and we're off to the mud bath. I mean, I don't know, mud bath sounds luxury, but it's apparently luxury, so let's talk about a mud bath. Everyone is relaxing. Wardog and Devons, we have gone from seeing them being arch enemies, and they were rubbing mud on each other's back. They were offering each other to rub mud on each other's back. You should have seen the smiles on their faces. They were enjoying it way too much. Hilarious viewing. Some may call it uncomfortable. I just found it hilarious. It was just mad to see them go from absolutely being arch enemies to doing that because it was just funny. And we also saw Devons and Wardog. They said in their confessional, "I'm here to relax. I don't want to talk game. It's an escape from the game." That's a classic. When someone, like in any Survivor season, when someone gets away from the game, there's always a couple of people who want to talk game, and there's always a couple who are just like, "Nope, this is my break from the game." After all, I would say Devons and Wardog are two of the most, like we said earlier, with Ron, alongside Ron, them two are some of the best game players in the game. So I think they do need a bit of a break from talking about game. On the other hand, we did see the girls, Julie and Lauren, said that they want to talk game. Julie mentioned that she's heard every girl's name that's been brought up as someone that could be beatable in the end. So we're already talking about the end of the game. I'm pretty sure that started a couple of weeks back in Tribal, where they started discussing about F3s and who could potentially be taken there. So Julie believes that, when they get to the final three, some of the girls are definitely going to be more beatable than the boys, so it's probably best to take out some of the boys. Lauren tells us that she thinks that the best option is to take out Mr. Rick Devons, but then Julie comes back and says she thinks that the War Dog is worse than Rick. She believes that he's more of a threat and it's better to get him out first. Lauren then sort of comes back and says, whilst War Dog is in the game, they've got like a vote that everyone can come together on, everyone can agree on, because with Rick it's sort of people umming and ahhing about it. Things are a bit up in the air and no decision has been completely made yet. So with War Dog, everyone knows he's a threat and they know that if needs be they can get everyone to band together and vote the War Dog out. So I thought that was a very valid point from Lauren, because maybe it's a better option to take out a bigger threat. Because they're both threats, don't get me wrong, they're both threats. But maybe Lauren is right when she says it's easier to take out War Dog further down the line because everyone can sort of turn on him and he's sort of an easy vote. So it's probably a better option to take out Devons now. So I do agree with Lauren on that half. But then Lauren and Julie, they didn't come to a conclusion, but they did say that they would like to work together. So that's what we've got now. Lauren and Julie have sort of got, not, I wouldn't say set in stone alliance, but they're definitely going to be consoling with one another and telling each other information that they can find out. There was a bit more game, but now we're going to the immunity challenge. So I was really looking forward to this. I always love an immunity challenge, as I am sure most Survivor fans do. It's a really good part of the show, lots of action, and it has you on the edge of your seat because you're rooting for your favourites to win immunity. Devons won immunity last week, so he gives his necklace back, and then Jeff goes over what the course and basically what the course is and what they have to do to win immunity. So they have to race over an obstacle carrying, in the UK we say a buoy, but I know you Americans, I know that Jeff says buoy, so we'll go with buoy. So they have to carry a buoy and then they manoeuvre the second buoy through a long tunnel, grab the third buoy and go under a net and use keys attached to the buoy when they get to the end to unlock a puzzle. And the first person to complete this puzzle wins immunity. So I'll just say what happens. Right, okay, so first there's like a wooden sort of pyramid sort of roof thing, if that makes sense. It's like just like a rooftop that they have, and there's about 4 of them, and they have to jump across 4 of them without touching the ground, and they've got the first buoy when they do this. So they set off. Aurora finishes first, Gavin second, Devon's third, followed by Lauren, then Victoria, the War Dog, and then Julie. So, but it's still pretty tight. Ron is still doing this pyramid, so he's still getting there. So everyone starts working on their second buoy, and then Ron manages to finally finish the first part. So Aurora gets a second buoy faster than anyone, followed by Gavin, then Julie, and then Devons. And the 4 of them start crawling under the cargo net with their third buoy. But then Devons gets out first, so Devon takes the lead over Aurora, but it's very, very close. So Aurora's like literally a millisecond behind him. Again, we're seeing Devons and Aurora excelling in these challenges just as usual, so it's sort of predictable, but you got to respect it 100%. They are doing extremely well when it comes to these competitions, so well done to them. Gavin then gets through, followed by War Dog, then Victoria, and people start working on the puzzle at this point. Next, we see Lauren get out of the net, and then we do find that Julia and Ron are trailing at the back. Then everyone gets to the puzzle, so literally it's anyone's game once again at this point, which has been a lot of this Survivor season. Everyone's really just fighting for this immunity, and no one is really in front. I mean, there's a couple of people who have made I would say, better at puzzles than others, because we do see Aurora making a lot of progress, but then Devons eventually takes the lead again. They've got the tiniest advantage since they arrived at the puzzle before everyone else, but Aurora is catching up, so it's like Devons Aurora taking the lead in front of each other. But then Devons, he's about to finish, and then he can't fit the final few pieces in. He's trying to fix them, and he's like, oh no, I've done something wrong, and he just can't get them in, but he eventually does. So he rearranges and solves it, and then Devons wins immunity, which is the second time in a row. So well done to Devons. And he said something like "La cheesery" when he won, which I thought was a great quote. And I didn't have a clue what it was about. Did my research afterwards though, and I found out that I'm pretty sure Devons, he takes part in some, or he listens to some sort of podcast when he's at home, and they've got some sort of like, I think one of the people who's on the podcast regularly, their family owns some sort of cheese shop that's called La Cheesery, and that's became some sort of greeting for listeners of the podcast. It's sort of just how they say hello to each other, so I thought that was fantastic. That's so La Cheesery to Devons, well done. That's all I'll say. In the mix, though, this week, we've had Devon's name brought a lot. He was 100% going to be a target for this week, so plans have got to change, and that was brought up as well. Gavin definitely wants to vote out War Dog, he says at this point. He's had this sort of... He's had revenge on his mind. He wants to take him out for not being in the loop last week, and also for taking Wentworth out as well. He's out for revenge, and now that Devons isn't in the mix to go, War Dog he's set his sights on the War Dog. Back to camp now, and we're talking about more game pretty much. Victoria did say in a confessional she was annoyed that Devons won immunity, because I think Victoria also did want Devons out. I didn't understand that though, because last week I remember them striking a deal together that they would work together amongst other people, and they seemed pretty cool with each other. So, Victoria, she's probably at the bottom of the pack, I'd say. She hasn't really been winning that many challenges, and her gameplay isn't up to par as anyone else's, so I think, again, she just sort of wanted an easy vote as well. She didn't want to make any big moves, which is why she's annoyed that Devons won immunity. We did see Devons and War Dog. They went to collect some firewood, just to sort of talk a bit. Nothing really specific, but they just went to talk. But whilst they were gone, the others grabbed that opportunity immediately, and they started discussing about, we're taking out War Dog. It's happening. Today's the day. We're taking him out. Once again, Ron was in that mix. He was talking about this as well, and Ron's been in that position again, week after week after week, where he gets to decide who he's going to work with. Is he going to go with Devons and War Dog, or is he going to go with the other guys? Because Devons and War Dog were also down with getting Julie with their vote as well, so they could make a bit of influence in the vote as well. And if Ron decided to go with them, then that splits the vote. So Ron is in this position again where he is constantly being the deciding vote. So Ron has got a lot of power in this game. And then he decided... Ron did go speak to War Dog for a bit, and he said to him, right, I agree with you that we're taking out Aurora. They did shake hands on it, and I was like, oh, this is serious stuff, really serious stuff. And War Dog then pitched the same thing to Julie, that they take out Aurora, but Julie was annoyed with War Dog that he didn't listen to her about last time, because Julie did say we take out Aurora. War Dog completely ignored it, and now War Dog's like, we get out Aurora. So Julie, it's going to take a lot of persuading to get her on board with this plan, because Julie was unsure who to vote for in a confessional straight after. She did say, I'm unsure, but she doesn't trust War Dog. She hadn't set in stone yet, she hadn't decided, but she didn't know who to vote. Julie then went to Lauren after that, obviously, because they're working together now. And Julie told Lauren about what's happening, about where the votes are standing, and what the different sort of pitches that she's received are. And Lauren wants revenge on War Dog as well, but she doesn't know if it's the best thing for her game. I thought that's good, because some people aren't rational with their game decisions. Like, I remember Devons, when he got back in from the Edge of Extinction, he let his sort of personal sort of view of the game take over his actual strategy and game move. He voted personally. I'm glad that Lauren is actually looking around and going, hang on, it's, I want to take out War Dog, but is it really going to benefit my game if I do it? Because if anyone War Dog's going to work with there, it's probably going to be Lauren, because Lauren has actually been working with War Dog for quite a long duration of time, up until Kelly Wentworth's elimination. So it's a good job that Lauren was rational there, I think. Aurora does think that Ron is playing both sides, so she's figured this out. But Aurora, I think she's probably one of the most observant out of all the castaways there, because Aurora's constantly finding herself near the bottom of the tribe, so she's always evaluating things that are going on, analysing. So I think she's probably got a better understanding of some alliances and some sort of points of view than other people in the tribe. So well done for Aurora for spotting that out. But that was said in a confessional, not face to face to anyone. So that was pretty much it for game. I mean, there was sort of a couple of conversations more, but that was about it. And then we head to Tribal Council. Let's do my usual introduction to Tribal Council. Dun dun dun! It's time for Tribal Council, folks. Welcome to Tribal Council. It's night 29 in the game now, so I'm pretty sure a season lasts 39 days, so it's 10 days away from the end. So night 29. Jury comes in. We've got Reem, Chris, Aubrey, Joe, Eric, Julia, David, and Kelly Wentworth, who went out last time. They are the people who, and David went out last time as well, but Kelly's the most recent. They are the people who are on Edge of Extinction at the moment, so I'm assuming everyone who's on Edge of Extinction at the end is going to get a jury vote. Jeff started probing conversation straight away, and he got Wardog to. Wardog expressed that the game gets harder when there's less players, because it's becoming more sort of confined, and you've sort of the trust circles begin to tighten as well, so it's harder to play, which I did agree with. Gavin says that he says he and Wardog haven't they haven't spoken since the Wentworth vote. They've sort of fallen out because they did have that. So when they came back from Tribal Council, they had a bit of a falling out, and they haven't spoken since. So yeah, that was pretty much straightforward. Wardog says how he and Ron took Wentworth out, so he exposed Ron. He literally said me and Ron, and that exposed Ron's game straight away. Big move on Wardog's part, exposing Ron's game. There's two sides to it, isn't there? You can look at it as if Ron is a good game player. You could say that he's made a big move there, but you could also say he's a bit of a snake, how he couldn't own his game move. And personally, for me, I always say this when I'm watching this sort of reality show, Big Brother, Survivor, anything like that. If someone can't own their game moves, I cannot respect that one bit. I really cannot. I think if you make a big move, you need to own it. Because if you come round, making these big moves and you try and pin them on other people, it just looks cowardly, because I don't understand why people can't get that in their head, because you've made this big move, you took out a big player, you should be proud of yourself, you've done something massive. So, and two, the jury have got to respect that in the end as well. If we ain't got a sour jury, then that should be a jury vote coming your way if you've made a big move like that. Victoria said that you look good to jury by saying who you got out, but your tribe see you as a threat. So it's vice versa as well, because you can also look bad to the jury by sort of, if you don't sort of say who you got out, then you look. This is hard to explain, isn't it? If you can look good to the jury if you say who you got out, but then your tribe will see you as a threat. If you don't say who you got out, the jury won't think you'll look good, and your tribe won't see you as a threat. So you'll stay in the game longer, but you won't get jury votes. So it's a really, really hard balance that you've got to perfect. And that essentially, that was just to carry on from about these big moves that Ron have made. Aurora believes, she concluded the conversation with that she believes that some people are going to be surprised about the vote. So we'll get straight onto it and we'll talk about the vote. Again, nobody has used that immunity idol. I'm shocked. We're in the final 8 now, and no one's used an immunity idol yet. So that's quite shocking to see. So it's exciting though, it really is, because that means there's more to play for. So I'll read the votes. First vote, Aurora. That's 1 vote, Aurora. Second vote, Wardog. That's 1 vote, Wardog. Third vote, Aurora. That's 2 votes, Aurora. Fourth vote, Wardog. That's 2 votes, Wardog. Fifth vote, Wardog. That's 3 votes, Wardog. Sixth vote, Wardog. That's 4 votes, Wardog. Seventh vote, Wardog. That's 5 votes, Wardog. That's enough. Wardog is out. They have slain the Wardog people. He is down. And Wardog, he decides to go to the edge of extinction, like everyone else. Wow, they finally took out Wardog. He was a great player, so well done for getting him out. Devins is probably the best game player left in the game, followed by Ron. So we'll see where that goes to next week. I'll just go over the votes quickly. The votes for Wardog were Gavin, Aurora, Victoria, Julie, Lauren and Ron. So Ron did decide to go with the other guys. And the votes for Aurora was Wardog and Devins. So Devins is essentially by himself now. Remember a couple of weeks ago where Aurora was by herself after a vote when Joe got taken out? Now Devins is in that situation as well. We'll talk about what to look about next week as well. So on the preview for next week, we saw that Ron gives Devins an advantage, but it's not just a normal advantage. He gives Devons an expired advantage, so Devons is wandering around thinking he's got this advantage, when in fact that'll sort of give him a safety harness. It'll make him feel safe, and then when he plays that, he's going to be absolutely blindsided because it's expired. Aurora, Victoria, and Lauren are caught by Devons looking in his bag, so they're obviously looking about there, and things are heating up definitely. And it's also the world famous loved ones visit that's happening next week, so there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm looking forward to it a lot, and I'm sure you guys are as well. Thank you everyone for listening to my podcast once again. This is the 5th or 6th one now, I believe. I'm going to say the... Oh God, I'm trying to think. I did episode 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, this is the 6th podcast, people. So thank you for those who've been listening all along the way, and thank you for new visitors. Thank you for everyone who's just took the time to listen to the podcast. I really do appreciate it, and I couldn't do it without you. Time to say all the cliche stuff. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that jazz. I'd really appreciate it, as I always do. My Twitter, I will put in the description as well. It's at TV Talks with Tom, and you can just see updates as to when new things are coming and just general Survivor updates as well. Thank you for listening, everyone. I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.